Hi there. Hi, Todd.
Hi,
Hi,
how you
Nadine.
doing?
I don't know. Oh, are you here for my class? Just because I didn't send anything else. I don't know if it's going to be if people are going to come today.
The Pirkei Avot class?
Yeah.
Yep, I'm here for that.
Oh, good. That's great. I can't promise it's going to actually transpire because I didn't. Julie's having surgery today, so
Mhm.
so I didn't send out anything to anybody. Have you been involved with Chaim for a while?
No, I just introduced myself this weekend, and
Oh,
it's my first
nice.
class.
Oh, wonderful. I was going to say something self-deprecating that you're having your first class with me, but I won't.
No, that's all good.
Do you live in Deerfield?
No, I live in Skokie.
Oh, great. Really nice. Excellent. Happy to have you. Hi, Nadine.
Okay, I'm trying to get this into. Oh God, what is this?
How'd you hear about L'Chaim Center, Ted?
I heard about it from another guy at a Parsha class, and so I said I came in on Shabbos and introduced myself, and
Awesome. Yay. That's
you are
the way
my
to go.
initiation.
Well, it's going to be a gentle one today because it's going to be a small class, and we're tying up the second chapter. So I think we'll see if people know about class or not. That's great. It's a wonderful place, L'Chaim Center. We live in Israel. My husband and I live in Israel, but you're
Oh,
going to
no
meet
kidding.
Even Gadi. Yeah, so Even Gadi Levy took over for us. Did you meet them this Shabbos?
Yes, I met them this Shabbos.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so they took over for us, and we made Aliyah.
Oh, wonderful for you.
So, teaching from the holy city of Jerusalem.
Are you in the city proper, or are you where are you in
We
relation?
moved to a remote. You know remote? Remote is the farthest. It's technically Jerusalem, but it's like off. You have to go down to Golda. It's a little separate from Jerusalem, but it's considered Jerusalem. My
Oh.
address is Jerusalem. Yeah.
Very
Right
nice.
on the forest. Yeah, it's a very, very nice place. Very nice place. So this is our year anniversary. Our 1 year Aliyah anniversary.
Oh, wonderful. Then what you
Yeah.
expected?
That's a good question. Been what we expected. I don't know. That's pretty much because we've lived here before. So I mean, nothing was terribly surprising. Nothing was like wildly surprising. The city is unbelievable. It's exploded. It's like so. Jerusalem I used to know was much quieter and more right, like just low key, and now it's like feels like Tel Aviv. Right?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's very very alive, very young. It feels like everyone's under 20. Guys, I'm just gonna oh, hi Sue.
Hi, Allie.
Hi there. I know you didn't get anything from me, so I don't know if we're gonna have a lot of people today because Julie's having surgery today.
Oh, I wondered. Okay. Right. Right. Okay. Well, we'll wing it.
I'm winging it. What's going on, Sue? How's
You
everything?
ready to come? Nothing. It's a gorgeous day here.
Good.
Beautiful. Humidity, 70 or low 70s. It's gorgeous.
My kind of weather.
Me too, Nadine.
Yeah. Nadine, when are you coming to Jerusalem?
Eventually.
Won't eventually for too long.
I'm nursing a broken foot right now.
Hi.
Oh wow.
How'd you do that?
How did you break your foot?
since Memorial Day. A bit large metal chair in my home fell on my foot,
Aye, that's
Oh,
gotta.
no.
but
That's
it's
a-
healing. It's healing. I'm wearing the boot, the
Oh,
naughty
wow.
boot.
Oy, oy, oy. Guys, I'll be right back. I'm just gonna run in. I'm gonna quickly write something.
Did Susan tell you she couldn't come today? She had a terrible sinus headache.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be very quiet.
Yeah, and she's recovering from COVID.
Sue Rosenwald had COVID?
Mhm. Just felt like she had a bad cold.
Right.
Everybody has had it,
Right, it's not the scarlet letter anymore,
I guess.
or any derivative of thereof.
Right.
Even the president has it.
Yeah.
right. Even.
Even the president. No one's immune.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get started.
Right.
Okay, we'll wait. We'll wait 2 more minutes. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Leslie.
When are you coming to town?
We're coming. Hold on a minute. We are
Who's
coming.
Thursday?
We're coming on August 3rd and
Alright.
staying till the 24th. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of good things coming up.
Yeah.
Excited. Mhm. Oh my gosh, I recorded this whole thing. That was dumb.
Okay.
All right. Debbie, did you get my email that I
I
sent today?
did. Thank you so much. I
So
was love
cute.
hearing from you.
How are you feeling?
I'm finally better. Thank you so much. Just tired.
What was
Just
the
got-
matter?
I got COVID.
Aye.
Yeah.
We've all
Yeah,
had
but I
it.
may one of the many, but I'm doing much better. Thank you.
Oh,
How's
good.
everybody else?
Did you feel really sick for a while?
Yeah, it came on pretty quickly. I started out like a dry throat, and then I got all, bad cold symptoms, ran a low-grade fever, just felt like a really bad cold and exhaustion. And
Well,
Not fun.
but I made it through. Finally
now
got
you have-
back.
Hi.
Finally
Now
got
you have
back
it behind you.
Yes.
That's kind of a relief, right?
And Ron never got it.
Crazy.
Okay, so
And it-
Adrian's asking, do we have a source sheet? So I must
Just
apologize.
texted her.
I must apologize to everybody that I do not have a source sheet today. Todd, this is Todd. Todd's new to, this is his first class with L'chaim, so everybody be nice. Just kidding.
Like we aren't.
I'm just kidding. But usually, Todd, there's a good, I think it's a good source sheet. But today, I wasn't able to do it. So if anybody has the text, please go get it. Because I don't have a source sheet today.
Oh, I don't have the book. Okay.
Nor the book. All right, so you'll listen to me. But if anybody, so this is the text that we use, Todd. So I'm trying to get it so it's not. This is the Korn Pirkei Avot. And and usually we go through a source sheet that I prepare, but I wasn't able to get it done today. Okay, we're going to get started, everybody. First of all, we're dedicating this class to a refuah shalema, to a full recovery for Julie. She had surgery today, and everyone's thinking about her, sending her the best wishes, praying for her. She's fantastic, and so this class is in her merit.
You know her Hebrew name?
Hmm,
Oh, well.
no.
Okay.
Okay, so if anybody has their book, this time they should definitely take it out. We're going to do 20 and 21 and pull them together. This is chapter 2, verse 20 and 21. These are the words of Rabbi Tarfon, who's one of the leading sages of the first and second century of the Common Era. You'll recognize there's many famous stories about him. He's one of the sages of Bnei Brak that feature in the Haggadah. So Rabbi Tarfon was a wealthy man, a great sage. And as we always say about Pirkei Avos, that when it says Rabbi so-and-so, hu haya omer, or hu omer, he says, or he used to say, this is his, really like his, I don't want to say mantra, but his, well, Linda in there, his real, like his aphorism for, and we always talk about this, but this is the beginning of rabbinic Judaism. So this is when the Jews are now exiled. They're no longer in the land of Israel. They're no the 1,000-year Tekufah, the 1,000-year era of them being rooted in their indigenous soil, with the temple, with the sacrifices, with all of the Jewish practice that was associated with the land of Israel. That's no longer. Rabbi Tarfon actually did live in Israel, but this is the beginning of the exile, of the 2,000 years of exile. And so this, I like to think of a lot of Pirkei Avos as the deep wisdom for living for the Jewish people when they could no longer rely on the Judaism as was practiced rooted in the land of Israel. I don't have the class sheet today, Linda. I didn't have time to do it. My apologies. If you have the book, go grab it. So we have Rabbi Tarfon, who said a very famous words. I'm going to read it in Hebrew, and then we're going to translate it in English. I'm going to read first. I'm going to read 20. Rabbi Tarfon Omer, Hayom Katsar. The day is short. Hamlacha Meruba. The task is great. The day is short. The work is great. Vahapoalim atzelim. And the workers are lazy. Vahasar harbeh. The reward is a lot. Ubaal habayis doche. And the master is insistent. So I'll say it again in English. The day is short. The work is great. The workers are lazy. The reward is much. And the master pushes. The master is insistent. So it's like a very pithy statement. It's a very short statement. It's mute themselves. Okay, great. Do you hear? Just raise your hand if you hear me. Now everyone's frozen. Okay, everybody.
Can't hear you, can't.
Can you? Who's? Yes, Susie. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, you should mute yourself. Stephen, if you can, say yes if you can. Okay, so we have this with this pithy statement, yet all of the commentaries say that that this pithy statement, the day is short, the task is great, the laborers are lazy, the reward is much, the master is insistent. This kind of obviously intentionally annotated statement is meant to tell us exactly the nature of life, that this is kind of life in summation. So when we say Hayom Katsar, we're not referring to an actual day of 24 hours, or maybe on a more metaphorical level. We're talking about life. Very often in the Torah, the word day is compared to the word life. So your life is short. There's some, I'm sort of paraphrasing this and speaking in modern language. Life is extremely short. The things you've got to do, the work that you have to achieve is awesome. It's enormous. The nature of the human being is they're not going to want to face up to the work. The reward is very, very great, and God cares that you get in the game. God cares that you live your life to the maximum. We just make sure, I just, because it's frozen, just make sure, Susie, you're moving. Just make sure that you can hear me, right? Yes, Susie? Yeah, just nod if you can hear me. Susie? Can you just, yes, you can hear me? Okay, good. All right. So life is short. We have to accomplish something unbelievably awesome and huge. People don't want to do it. The reward is very much, and God cares. That's basically what Rabbi Tarfon is saying. So let's take it apart. I actually didn't write notes today. I'm sort of teaching a little bit more off the cuff today, but these are the basic philosophical premises of Judaism, and the book that like basically gives life to what Rabbi Tarfon is saying more than anything is Mesilas Yesharim, which David is learning with a lot of the guys. Mesilas Yesharim is one of the foundational texts that from the Ramchal, from Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. And this is exactly what it says, that especially when you're young and you're in your life, you even when you're older and your mortality is looms larger, we don't want to look at the shortness of life. We just don't want to think about it. There are certain things that we don't want to think about. One of the things we don't really like to think about is that we're going to die. But we know that even in the book of Psalms, when King David laments and literally begs Hashem, tell me when I'm going to die. There's a remarkable psalm where King David impeaches Hashem, implores Hashem, tell me when I'm going to die, because I need to know so that I can plan my life accordingly. And of course, we never know when we're going to die, but we do know that life is finite, but we're in massive denial. There is a denial mechanism in a human being that does not want to acknowledge, I am not going to live forever. And there's something that is so important that I need to do, and I have to do it now. My life, it doesn't last forever, but B, I don't know when I'm going to die. I don't know when that day is going to be. Life is fragile, life is short, life can be even tragic, like we just experienced, like you just experienced, more importantly, in Highland Park. We don't know when we're going to die. And that's the famous Mishnah when the Hasidim cry out to Rebbe, tell us when we should do tshuva. Rebbe says, do tshuva a day before you die. But Rebbe, how do we know when we're going to die? And Rebbe says, exactly. Therefore, live with the urgency that life is short and fragile at any moment, which is, by the way, why we all throughout Jewish life and Jewish time and the Jewish day, there are these structures of reflection that allow us to, like, if you will, kind of get our business in order on a daily basis. We say the Shema at night, which is ideally, I've gone through phases where I do, and sometimes I'm lazy with it. Sometimes the worker is lazy, right? But the Shema, in the Shema prayer, is not only, declaring the oneness of God, but there's a forgiveness prayer. So it's almost like before you send your soul into sleep, sleep is considered a fraction, a 60th, a piece, a taste of death. Just like Shabbat is considered 1/60th of the world to come, sleep is considered 1/60th of death. There's an aspect of soul that leaves you. So before you enter into the precariousness of sleep, the fragility of sleep, you forgive, you ask for and grant forgiveness to anybody who might have hurt you. You're wrapping it up, so to speak, in so many words. And we also have a structure that we talk about a lot in this class, which is Cheshbon HaNefesh, which is that ideally a human being reflects at night what they did well that day, what they'd like to do better, what they would have liked to do better that day, what they want to do better tomorrow. A person is meant to live with Cheshbon HaNefesh at night and in the morning, and of course, Erev Shabbat, and then before Yom Kippur, before Rosh Hashanah. And why? Because we don't know. I don't think this is the only reason, but we're meant, it's kind of interesting, like being Jewish is interesting. We're meant to live with like taking every day to its maximum and living in this world, appreciating all the good in this world, and constantly being in gratitude and enjoying like all the good that God gives us all the time. But we're always meant to keep our eye on our mortality, which is why you'll see a lot of Hasidim will visit graves before Rosh Hashanah. There is this deep non-denial in Judaism of our mortality. Why is Eve? Oh no, Eve. Eve just came into the room. Hi, Eve. Hi. Okay, I thought Eve was here. Okay, so so the day is short. So Rabbi Tarfon is saying, take yourself out of denial. The task is great. What is the task? The day is short. Our life is finite. We don't know when it's going to end. There's work that we need to do. So what is the work? What really is the work? And there are many, many ways to ask ourselves, like, what really is the work of life? But if I could sum up in my experience of again, this is just like a very personal feeling. My experience is that we enter this world in a pristine state. And we say that every morning. We say, Elokai, my God, Elokai neshama, shenesatabi tahorahi. My God, the soul that you've given to me is pure. You created it, you fashioned it. We are created with a pure soul, but a piece of God himself. So I think it's very important to live with the understanding that we're created with something limitless within us. We're created with, it's important to meditate on this, that we're created with a chelek Eloka mima'al. That's what the Talmud, that's the language that the Talmud uses to describe that God invests of himself in a human being. We've got like a little bit of God inside of us. Now, what does that mean? That means that something is totally pure. Something is totally pure and pristine. But when this soul is brought down and, if you will, on a non-physical level, squeezed and restricted and constricted, even though it's non-physical, metaphorically constricted into a body that has lots of desires, and not even without the body component, this soul is surrounded by nefesh habahamis, by an animal soul, by a soul that desires, that a soul that an ego that wants, that craves kavod, all the things Pirkei Avot talks about. This pristine soul is surrounded, if you will, by almost oppositional forces, put into a body with all the physical heaviness of the body. And then this body is put into all sorts of difficult situations, all sorts of unbelievable challenges. And I do want to say, after working, this year, I've really put a lot of my focus and attention on coaching and coaching people. And I think what's really unbelievable is that some people experience, I guess, what you would call empirical trauma when they're younger. The obvious things that we would call, if we could say what's traumatic and what's not, it would be empirical trauma. But everybody has experiences in their very young years that they interpret traumatically, that they actually interpret traumatically. In other words, when they were young, when we're young, we could have experiences like, let's say, for example, in class with the kids laughing at us, right? Or, we got picked last for a team. And we start to develop beliefs when we're very, very young of, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, no one listens to me. And what I've come to understand is that we interpret experiences that hurt us when we're young, and we develop beliefs. We develop beliefs about ourselves. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. No, I'm not important. Whatever it is, whether we experience empirical trauma or we just interpreted a sad or hurtful experience traumatically, they formed beliefs when we were very young and we were cognitively immature. and we're unable to derive normal interpretations, such as my parents are flawed, they did the best they can, but they're doing the best they can, but they're flawed, it's not about me. We're not able to make interpretations like that. So we develop beliefs. And what I've come to understand, and this is connected to Rabbi Tarfon, I think very much, I'm not going so far afield, is that those beliefs that we develop when we're young, they govern and dictate literally everything that we do, even when we're adults. I have a client who's in her mid 70s here in Israel, and we were talking about this very subject, and she stands up in the middle of a coaching session, and she's in her mid 70s, and she says, "This little girl is running my show. No more, no more," because she understood that the way we work is that the interpretations, the beliefs that we develop when we're young, they stick with us. And they mutate a little bit, but essentially they govern and they dictate all our behavior and our habits and the things we don't do, the chances we don't take, the things that we're triggered by, the things that we feel frozen by. These are all behaviors that are rooted in beliefs that we developed when we were children. And so one way to look at the task, this is only just one way, but I in my experience in this last year and in my own life too, I've come to understand that this is one of the most important things we can do, is understand that we need to go back and say, what am I believing that's keeping me in this behavior? What am I believing that's keeping me stuck? What am I believing about myself or the world that I formed those beliefs when I was younger? And then my brain just kept looking for more and more evidence. Yep, see here, it's true. I can't do this and I can't do that. I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm not outgoing, I'm not smart enough, whatever it is. Literally to understand that we made those decisions when we were defenseless children, and to go back and literally believe something new about ourselves as rational adults, kind of reclaim, consciously create our life instead of just letting these beliefs that we formed when we were so young and so defenseless, letting them run our show. So I'm being really quick about it. But when I hear the task is great, I think to myself, when I hear Bahamlacha Maruba, the work is formidable, the work is great. To me, that means, God, you created me with a limitless soul, with an aspect of you that we, let's say, that we call soul, which means that part of me is limitless. That doesn't mean that I could be like Serena Williams. It just means that according to what God imbues with you, like the strength that he gives you, that the unique strength that God gifts you, and something that's totally unique about you, you could do anything with that. Why don't you? Why do you stay in that kind of stuck and frustrated place? Because we're still believing those beliefs. So the task is great, in my opinion. And this is me. This is not necessarily like exactly what like a lot of commentators say, but it's not so different. I think the task is great means I need to live up to my potential, which is kind of God's truth for me. God doesn't think I'm not smart enough. God doesn't think that I'm not, people don't like me. God doesn't think that I'm not good enough or I'm inadequate or anything, any limiting belief that I have. I need to move away from the beliefs that I developed when I was very young and understand and look at what's unique about me. Look at why my soul was put into this world. Look at what's uniquely special about me, what I love to do, what I'm good at, that intersection between something that I'm good at, that I love to do, something that's uniquely me. And I have to consciously create my life living with my unique strengths and talents, because you put my soul into my body for a mission. but I literally cannot perform the mission if I'm stuck in a childhood belief about who I am. That's why I stay stuck. That's why I'm frozen. That's why I sabotage. That's why I'm frustrated. That's why no matter what I do, I keep hitting a ceiling because I'm believing a false belief. So the task is great, means many different things. But I'm sure that one of the things that it means is God imbued me with a soul and a unique tafkid in this world. And if I try to manifest this tafkid, this unique purpose in the world, being guided and dictated by beliefs that I formed when I was young, which is really how we live, unless we consciously, if that is how you will live by default. Sometimes people say, so what is coaching, Allie? And I say, I'll tell you what coaching isn't. Coaching is not the life you're going to lead by default if you don't do anything about it. I don't know if I made any sense what I just said right now. But if you don't embrace change, if you don't embrace new ways of thinking about what your potential is, you will live your default life, which is the life that you'll live if you are kind of going through your life sort of passive and reactive. It's kind of interesting. The word create and react are the same letters. I don't know if that's just it's not Lashon HaKodesh, it's not the essential tongue, but they really are they are the antithesis one of the other. Create is to consciously take your life and say, what do I need to believe? What limiting belief do I literally need to turn around on its head in order to access God's truth? I'm not smart enough. I am smart enough. God gave me the exact form of intelligence that I need to fulfill my tafkid. Exactly the kind of intelligence that I need. Whatever your tafkid is, you have the right intelligence for it. So the real truth is, it's not about changing or improving your beliefs. It's literally turning them around, like we say in Hebrew, lahefech, turning it on its head and saying, God's truth for me is the very antithesis, the very opposite of the beliefs that have kept me stuck and frustrated and hitting ceilings again and again. So we have a lot of work to do, because at the end of the day, we don't know when our life is going to be over. And we have a massive task in front of us, which is God creates us each with a unique tafkid, a unique purpose, and we cannot manifest it if we're believing false beliefs about ourselves. If you don't believe what I'm saying, just look at your life. Ask yourself, are my intimate relationships as close as they could be? Are my friendships as warm and intimate as they could be? Am I taking like the control of my health and well-being and physical well-being as much as I could? Am I as confident as I want to be? Do I take chances? Do I take chances in business? Whatever it is, look at your results. And if you can say about any of the questions that I just asked, no, not really, not so great, it just means you're believing false beliefs about yourself. Sometimes I say to people, if you're upset or if you're triggered or if you're very critical, just stop and take a breath and ask yourself, what am I believing about myself right this moment that's making me feel this way? What am I believing about myself that's making me feel this way? Today I'm trying to start writing, which is a loaded thing for me. And today I went to I go to a creative writing workshop in Rehavia at the OU Center. And I was in a terrible mood, like on the bus, I was just feeling like very down. And I'm thinking, and finally, so I stopped and I said, what am I believing right now that's making me feel this way? And the belief that came up for me, because sometimes you just go with your intuitive gut. The belief that came up for me is, I don't think clearly enough to write. I'll never be a writer. My brain doesn't think clearly enough. I've had a belief forever that my thoughts aren't linear and I don't think clearly enough. So just understanding, like, we don't surface those beliefs about ourselves. So just stopping when you're in a not good mood or when you're triggered or something and asking yourself, what am I believing that's making me feel this way? And there's more to say, and I don't want to get too coachy, but the task is great. Hamlacha Maruba is absolutely about this, because you cannot fulfill your tafkid if you are governed by false limiting beliefs. It just can't happen, which will mean you'll have to be reincarnated again because you won't fulfill it. We know that reincarnation is the sum total of reincarnation is that the neshama that is invested into a body and brought into a specific set of physical circumstances doesn't fulfill its tafkid. And therefore, it needs to come down, go up, and come down again in another body. That's what we call reincarnation. But reincarnation, in essence, reincarnation sounds funny when I said it. In essence, is the confusion that the human being in this physical world experiences about themselves, the inability to see their greatness, and therefore the confusion that prohibits them and keeps them from fulfilling their purpose in this world. So this is why, and I mean, I would be going too far into coaching if I explained to you, maybe at the maybe when I get there in Chicago, we'll do it a little bit more, but we'll talk about why it's so important to understand what I've believed my whole life about myself, what it's cost me in terms of relationships, in terms of happiness, in terms of confidence, in terms of financial success, or anything. What does it cost me? And not dwelling in where I formed it, and I mean not being in therapy about it, but understanding I've got to go back, and at the moment that I made that choice, whether I was 5 years old, 7 years old, 12 years old, at the moment that I made that choice, I need to choose something truer and new, because hamalacha maruba, the task of my life, requires that I fulfill my tafkid. How do I know my tafkid? Just look at this, like as Rabbi Yisachar Fran says, read your messages. He has a book called Read Your Messages, which is look at your life. Look at the things that keep coming up. Look at your struggles. Look at your strengths. Look at look at the themes. If you could say, like, is there a theme in my life where I find myself very confused, or what are my strengths where I enjoy myself very much and it's meaningful? What is my tafkid? I have to do it. I have to do it, and I can't do it if I'm confused. And that is the essence of reincarnation. But Rabbi Tarfon goes on, the problem is the workers are lazy. The problem is people don't want to do this work. There is a very strong part of human beings that just don't want to look at life as seriously as this. So this doesn't mean that we're not supposed to have humor and enjoy life, but we are meant to say life is finite. I've got some serious tough. I've got to fulfill my tafkid, and there's something in me that doesn't want to do it. There's something that doesn't want to do it. There's something in me that doesn't want to do it. People don't. They don't necessarily want to reflect on the preciousness of life, and that the thing about what Judaism, one of the most foundational concepts of Judaism, is that this is the world of Asiya, that Olam Hazeh, this world, while you're alive in this world, this is the world of doing, Asiya, and the next world is the world of being, of just being what you made of yourself in this world. And that's why, I've said this a million times, it's from the Talmud, but it's worth saying it again, that the Talmud likens this world and the next world to Erev Shabbat and Shabbat, which you've heard this a million times, but what can you do on Erev Shabbat? You can cook, you can bake, you can cook more, you can bake more, you can clean, you can get everything ready. But when Shabbat comes and you light the candles and it's now the Sabbath, it's now the Sabbath, you cannot cook anymore. You cannot bake anymore. You can only enjoy what you've cooked and what you've baked. That's why we compare this world and the next world with Erev Shabbat and Shabbat. That this world is the world where we can do this work. This isn't the only thing. I know I've said it a million times, but it's not the only way to understand it. But I think it's a super important way to understand it. That you cannot be confused about your greatness. You've got to understand. I would say this is half of the work that I do with clients. It's really, and myself, by the way. I'm my client. It's a lot cheaper when I can hire myself. So and I have a coach too, because it's so important to understand what you're believing, because you have a task. And it's interesting because it uses the word hamalacha maruba. The malacha is maruba. It's interesting. The task is great. It's interesting that the Pirkei Avot uses the word malacha, because malacha is the term that we use for the prohibited acts of labor on Shabbat. There's 39 categories of malacha. Malacha is the work that was done to create the tabernacle, and it's right in the Torah. It's right next to, it's adjoining the work of the tabernacle adjoins the teachings on Shabbat, because we use this word malacha, which means creative labor. Creative labor. And so we don't do, it's not that we don't do work on Shabbat. I mean, I work super hard. I know anyone who has a lot of guests works a ton, because you're still serving and you're this and you're not. I mean, it's a lot of work, Shabbat, but you don't do creative labor. So you might, you set the table, you clean the table, you put everything away, you sweep up, you get ready for lunch the next day. It can be a lot of work, but it's not yesh ma'ayin, meaning it's not creative. It doesn't create something from nothing. It doesn't create something new. And so it's interesting that here we use the word malacha, because just like on Erev Shabbat, you can do malacha, but on Shabbat, you cannot do malacha. Here it's saying this creative work that you cannot do on Shabbat. Remember, malacha doesn't mean hard work. Malacha means creative work, creating something new. And here it's saying, so it's basically saying life is short. Creative work, creating yourself, creating yourself anew is awesome. Somebody needs to mute themselves. Nadine, I think it's you. If you can, mute yourself. So what is it saying here? It's incredibly important that you do creative work. What is creative work? Just like God is constantly recreating creation at every given moment, you need to recreate yourself. I guess I have more time on my hands, but I think about this all the time since we made Aliyah, that I cannot just passively live by default. Sometimes you get to a turning point in your life. But there's actually a very interesting quote from Bill Gates where he says a successful person hits a turning point. He says you could be 15 or 50, you could be 75, you could be 85, it doesn't matter. You get to a point where you say, I can't live by default anymore. I can't just kind of like Noah Weinberg would say, I can't live like a zombie anymore. I can't just go from day to day and check off my to-do list and just move through. I have to recreate myself. Hamalacha maruba, creative work is waiting for you. Creative means not that you should, it's wonderful to be creative, to create art and to garden and to cook. That's wonderful, but that's not what it's talking about. It's talking about I need to recreate myself. I cannot just someone's someone's not muted. It's a number. I don't see a person. So someone just mute themselves. I have to live proactively. I have to be the conscious creator of my life. If I live by default, I'll just get the same results that I've always gotten, and I won't even be partnering with God in my own creation. That's what Dr. Abraham Tversky says, Alav Shalom, Rav Michal, our Rebbe's brother, the famous psychiatrist. He says that when God, Dr. Tversky says that when God says, Na'aseh Adam, let us make man, and the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, says, why is God saying Na'aseh Adam? Like only God is a sole creator. And the Baal Shem Tov said, most of the commentators say, out of humility, out of a sense of like teaching humility, God involves the angels in the project. Na'aseh, let us make man. What God? You don't need a helper. You don't need a secretary, right? So he's talking to the angels, and the Baal Shem Tov says, no, actually, he's talking to you. He's talking to man. He's saying, I, God, will make man. I'll make you, but you're going to join me because you have to create yourself. I will give you your soul. I will give you your circumstances. I will put you in with specific parents. I'll give you a specific temperament. I'll put you in a time in history. I'll give you a specific physicality. I will sustain you at every given moment. But you've got to do the work of creating yourself. And Dr. Tversky says, not the mitzvah, or the imperative of Na'aseh Adam is God, I am partners with you, and I literally have to create myself. So create and react are the same letters. Again, it's not, I don't know how deep that is because it's English. It's not Lashon HaKodesh, it's not Hebrew, but it's still really cool because react means I just go about my day and I'm not consciously creating myself. I'm just sort of like passively having time go by versus proactively creating myself every single day of my life. And I think one of the most important aspects of what it means to create yourself is I've got to figure out what I started to believe when I was young that has dictated all of my behaviors and all of my habits and all of my level of success, my level of power, the connection in my relationships, what triggers me. Everything is being dictated by beliefs that I formed when I was young and totally incapable of forming rational interpretations. I was cognitively underdeveloped. I was just a kid. There was no way I could have ever interpreted this accurately, but this has led me, and I need to figure out what it is so I can go back and provide myself with a new belief, which is the opposite of what I've believed until now. Do I want to do this work? There's a big part of me that just wants to eat, sleep, and be merry. I'm sailing. We're lazy. We don't want to live with the urgency of life. But, and I'm going to finish it up, and then we're going to take comments. Here's the last 2 points. So the day is short. The creative work is awesome. The laborers are lazy. Aschar harbe. The reward is so much. The reward is so much. Now, there's different ways of understanding reward. Fundamental, one of the 13 principles of faith, one of the basic tenets of Judaism is this is the world of making yourself. The next world is the world of experiencing the pleasure of who, or the non-pleasure of who you strove to become in this world. So real reward, the non-physical reward, is reserved for the world to come. But we also understand that God gives us reward in this world. And what I want to say is that when a person does this creative malacha, this creative, recreating, proactively, consciously creating one's life, resists the laziness of the body, of the Yetzer Hara that tries to pull you into safety. It's always pulling you into non-action. It's always telling you not to bother. You know, as soon as I start to tell myself I can write, there's another voice that says, your sentences don't even make sense. Like they're not cohesive. They're not clear. Just forget about it. You don't need to write. It's not just lazy, but it's so, everything inside of you, the ego is all about keeping you stuck. So you're so really, it's like children. We always say children aren't lazy. Well, I'm admitting Eve. Children aren't lazy. There's no such thing as a lazy child. They would, as says, somebody needs to mute. My friend Julie always says this. I think she quotes Ross Greene, who's a famous child psychiatrist, I think. He wrote The Explosive Child. Kids do well when they can. They'll always do well when they can. There's no such thing as a lazy kid. If a kid is presenting as lazy, it's because there's something that they're struggling with. There's something they're not understanding. There's something that they're not, that there's a need that's not being met. Nobody's just lazy. And the same thing is true with Hapolim. It's not that we're lazy. No one is just lazy. Laziness is like secondary. It's reflective of a deeper unmet need. So we're not willing to look at this work. We're not willing to do this work. We are presenting as lazy, but really we're really just kind of going through life sort of like zombie. We're not really taking our lives into our hands, but the reward is much. Of a haskar harbe. The reward is so incredible, not just in the next world where real reward lies. You eat what you cook, just like Erev Shabbat. On Shabbat, you eat what you cook. You reap the benefits of who you became through your hard work in this world. But in this world, the reward is so great. Can you imagine the profound joy of the name of the, Listen to Your Messages by Yisachar Frant, by Rabbi Frant. Wonderful, old, it's kind of dated, but it's a wonderful book. Can you imagine the joy of like believing a true belief about yourself? I'll just use my writing example just as I gave it. Can you imagine if I put down all of my limiting beliefs and I said, my brain works beautifully and I can form coherent thoughts. I have a lot to say, and what I have to say is interesting and important for humanity. Can you imagine if I just turned it all around and then I wrote 1 page a day for 365 days, which means I have to write on Motzi Shabbos because on Shabbat you can't write, right? So on Saturday night I have to write. But let's just say 365 days a year, right? I would have a 365 page book after 1 year. And then I could edit it, then I'd send it, and in 2 years and a year later, I would have a book. The reward is so great when you're not living with the false beliefs that became ingrained in your neural pathways when you were young. Can you imagine if my whole life I said, I'm not really clear thinking. When I write, it doesn't make any sense. Like I just, writing is so painful for me. I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart enough. Now you might be saying, oh, Allie, yes, you are. But we all have irrational beliefs that an outsider would say, it's not true. It's not true. So the reward is great. Is Allie, you would have a 365 page book if you just stopped believing the beliefs that you formed when you were so defenseless and you couldn't have interpreted anything different. And you started believing things that your brain, like deep in your subconscious, and your brain is like the perfect servant to the subconscious that seeks to find evidence. You see there, you see it's true there, and you manifest it, but it's based on something not true. So the reward is great. The real reward is in the next world, but the reward in this life is so awesome when you fulfill or are actively fulfilling God's truth for you. It's so awesome. And the last words are Ubal Habayit Dochek. The master insists. God insists. He insists. It's not, I would even go so far as to say it's not coincidence that you're hearing this message today. Clearly, you guys, 17 of you, needed, 16. Well, me too, because I'm hearing it also. If you're here, it means God is doche. He like wants you to hear it. He insists that you do this work. I don't know if we would say that reincarnation, that I know in our sources say at length, we talk about at length how it's extremely painful, whatever that means for the soul to come back down. The soul wants to cleave to Hashem. The fact that it has to come back down again is a source of great pain for the neshama, which leads us to believe, because the soul is an aspect of God, that it's painful for God. The best way to understand God's pain when you don't fulfill your tafkid is when you have a child. You are a parent. If you are a parent, if you have a child who is struggling so much and they have very, very painful mental health issues, and they're depressed and they just can't get moving, and like they're so fantastic, and you think, I wish you could see what I see. I wish you could see how incredible you are. I wish you could see how your brain is serving up all sorts of non-truths, and you're following it like a dog on a leash. This is not true. You are amazing. You are so amazing. I know you can succeed. You can do it. And the child can't get out of their prison. Maybe you've been through this. As a parent, you might have been through this. It's unbelievably painful. So God is Avinu B'Shamayim. He's our Father in heaven. He also, the parental relationship is a flesh and blood metaphor, not even metaphor, it's a flesh and blood, I can't think of the word, like a representation of God's relationship to us. We are the children. We are the children, and He is the parent. He has terrible grief when we don't fulfill our tafkid. So He's doche. He sends you lots of messages. Someone asked, I think it was Linda asked about, what was that book again? It's called Listen to Your Messages. Am I depressed? Am I anxious? Why? Am I hitting a ceiling no matter how hard I try? Why? Am I on like a loop where I'm continuously kind of thinking the same self-deprecating, difficult thoughts? Am I in the same rut again and again? Why? What's going on? Go back to the original question that I brought up. What am I believing right now that's making me feel this way? Get to the belief. By the way, if you want to do a little bit deeper work, I'll do coaching with you very, very happily. I have to say, like, Hamalacha Maruba, like the creative work is awesome, where you say, I don't have to believe this anymore. And once you can create a new opposite belief, then you start to associate, like align your behavior with that belief. I'm going to write one paragraph a day. By the way, I have much deeper things than writing, but writing is a good, that's a real limiting belief for me. I don't think clearly enough. Really deep down, I'm not smart enough. So this is, God is doche. He sends you tons of signs. He sends you signs with your mood. He sends you signs in what you're critical of. He sends you signs in what triggers you. He causes events to happen. He makes you experience certain messages like this moment right now. He's doche. To be doche means to insist, in Hebrew. So we have 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it is. So I want to stop there, but I'm just to go into our brains, because we're stubborn kind of people, not this group, but I'm going to read it in Hebrew because it's so deep. And in this pithy little statement, it is literally like the whole point of life in this pithy little statement from Rabbi Charkov. Hayom katsar. The day is short. Hamalacha meruba. The task, the creative task, is awesome, great. Vahapoalim atselim. But the people are lazy, but we know no one's really lazy. There's something that we're not getting. Baschar harbeh, the reward is so awesome, not just in the next world, but in this world. I'd have a book of 365 pages if I changed my beliefs around my intelligence and my ability to write. Ooh, balabayas doche, and God insists. He really insists, and He's gonna keep sending you messages until you hear it. This is it. So I'm gonna take comments or questions or thoughts. I want to stop recording.